beloved family aircraft that the Sinclair family owned was the B-35B Beechcraft Bonanza. It is a single-engine, 6-cylinder, with 285 horsepower, a 716 nautical mile range, with a top speed of 186 knots. With 4 seats, it's their perfect family aircraft. The majority of the Sinclair family was enjoying a long weekend art fair in New Mexico, starting in Albuquerque and ending in Santa Fe. Here's the wonderful Sinclair family. This is Warren Sinclair, 46, Margaret Sinclair, 42, their daughter, Allison Sinclair, 18, and their son, Bob Sinclair, who is 20. Bob was not involved in the accident, as he did not join them on their long weekend art fair.
Darling,
Warren Sinclair was the pilot in command of this flight. He was an instrument-rated pilot with 1,700 hours. His daughter, Allison Sinclair, also flew for a portion of this flight and was also an instrument-rated pilot.
Hi there, I would like a weather briefing and NOTAM for my route of flight. It'll be from Santa Fe to Omaha Epley. Okay, so Santa Fe is ceiling and visibility unlimited. Omaha is 600 feet, 5 nautical mile viz. Possible light rain and or light snow. Okay. And winds at 9,000 feet are 280 at 30. 12,000 feet, 300 at 45. Okay, so en route it'll be 700 overcast, 6 mile viz. Oh, and weather's deteriorating after Garden City, Kansas. Oh, okay, thank you. Could I also get NOTAMs? Okay, so nothing significant. Okay, great. That'll be all for today. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye.
Okay, so like flight service said, here's that build up going on here. Doesn't look too bad. We'll be okay with it. The mixture here. And telecasts, yeah, you can see it's not as severe as they're all reporting it is. I think it'll be okay. Got a nice route going from New Mexico right to Omaha. Be a nice flight. And like I said, just direct route. Should be a good flight. Let's check the airport now. Nothing's changed since we've been there in the last 2 days. It's our home base, so we should be all familiar with it. NOTAMs look good, nothing going on. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay, so we have our measured route from Santa Fe to Omaha Epley. We'll measure that. Gives us a rough distance of 588 miles. Heading of 044. We'll confirm that with Sky Vector. 043. Pretty accurate. So our route really doesn't really bring us over any water, so we don't have to worry about gliding distance or anything like that. It's fairly direct, no real concerns, no big airspaces we have to avoid or anything. Everything's pretty direct, pretty routine. We'll just be flying around some mountains. Those are really our only obstructions and our only concern for this flight. Once we get into Salt Lake traffic over here, that's where it'll get a little busy, but we'll maintain contact with them and separation.
Okay, so it looks like I've verified everything. All your planning looks correct. And we'll be in contact with FSS regardless, so it's not a big deal if we're missing anything. We'll file the night IFR plan before we go in about 30 minutes. Shouldn't be that long. We'll just get your mother going. And I might have a nap halfway through the flight, so-and-so, and then you'll take control regardless, or vice versa. Whoever wants to have a nap first is good.
Good evening. This is Warren Sinclair calling. I'd like to file a night IFR flight plan. We'll be leaving Santa Fe, direct Omaha Epley Field. Altitude will be 9,000 feet once we clear the mountains. 5 hours fuel endurance. 355 en route. Be 3 souls on board. Yep, all the same survival equipment. You got us on file. Beach Bonanza. Yes, it's a B-35B. Okay. And we'll be departing in about 30 minutes from now. Alternate will be Manhattan. Yeah. Alright, thank you very much.
Well, Santa Fe doesn't have great food, but at least it has great snacks. Anyways, I think I'm almost done here. I'll just get ready to go. Our planning is done. Have our flight plan. We're good to go.
Got full tanks, full tanks.
I'm leaving this place behind and I'm heading out on the road tonight. I'm off for the hinterlands way up north through the tall tree stand. Before I commence my ride, I'm asking really to be my bride. I know there's another.
Runway heading 020 confirmed.
Here's a general aviation takeoff from Santa Fe Airport. This is obviously day VFR conditions, however, this is the same runway that Warren Sinclair departed from.
tremendous urgency to talk to any survivor of an accident to get to them as quickly as possible, because they tend to build on news stories, so you don't get the clear, unfiltered description.
They didn't even wake me up. Dad thought he could probably handle it on his own without my help. I didn't wake up until after we were given vectors, and that's when I heard the controller tell us about that 727 traffic that we had.
Bonanza 42 Whiskey, I beat 15 miles out and another aircraft inbound on the localizer. It's a 727, 25 miles back from the marker.
We'll be able to beat that 727 in with a turn onto the localizer right at Garfy.
Roger that, maintain heading 050 and watch your airspeed.
I could see the ice build up on the wings, and I told Dad about it, and he just nodded in agreement. I also warned him about the speed getting high. It was just below the red mark, and he said he was watching it and wanted to keep the speed up so that he can get to the marker ahead of the airliner. The icing was getting really bad, really fast.
Dad, it looks like we're picking up some icing on the wing. It's really not looking good.
Bonanza 42 Whiskey, I view 2 miles out. You're cleared for the approach for 14 right with the 727 traffic 8 miles behind once you reach Garfy. So you'll have time to slow down and get configured for landing.
The 14 right approach is a tight one. The marker's 3.6 miles away from the runway, and you don't have much time to get your flaps or your gear down before you get on the glide slope. Dad never slowed down, nor did he put any flaps down.
And told him the 727 to slow down. He didn't need to rush. Next thing I know, he makes a sharp right turn and blows right through the localizer course. Then comes back around and blows through it again. And then...
Everything happened so fast. Dad simultaneously started a steep right turn and pulled up on the nose. Went to reach for the gear switch, but he never got there in time.
This guy, we all knew the Sinclairs. I'm willing to bet that Warren shot 200 approaches a year here and knew it better than anyone. But hearing his voice that night, he just wasn't himself. It just didn't sound. As you know, I was expecting it. Showed up on my scope and was moving almost as fast as a jet. It doesn't call in from as far out as normal. It was a hectic night with lots of traffic. I almost wish I'd never told him about the 727 on his tail. Maybe then he wouldn't have rushed. Asking for vectors where he normally doesn't, not responding. He was just so fast. I swear I warned him that he would blow his entry, but he just brushed it off with a "will be fine." But then, yeah, from then on, he just went off my scope.
And I was saying to Billy, look, there's one of them flying machines flying over the house, and it damn near took off the moonshine mobile's roof.
Yeah, and then I done seen it come up the east bank of the Missouri, and it come to rest about 50 yards or so past. No fire, nothing.
So my dad calls me at 11 p.m. and he tells me that he needs a ride, which is weird, you know, because we barely fly our Bonanza across country at night. But you know, he had a job and he had to be home for the next day. It was mainly an IFR flight, and he had alternatives. He even said that if need be, he would stop at Manhattan, you know, visit up with his grandparents. It was the ice. They got caught with too much. It's pretty much confirmed. We've had countless interviews with the FAA, safety board, and Bert, who used the controller at that churn at the marker, overstressed the plane. But that seems like an understatement because the whole tail ripped off. Can you imagine ripping off the tail of a Bonanza? If we knew that could happen, we would have never owned or flown that plane. Something else must have gone on, and we all think something did happen. It was at the red line. There's clear ice on the stabilators, unreported turbulence, and some intense back pressure was applied so the nose wouldn't drop through the churn. According to experts, this could cause the tail to rip off of any plane. Me and Allison have not flown since.
Here is a tail view of the general aviation aircraft entering a spiral dive. This spiral dive was entered from a safe airspeed and maintained throughout. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for our Bonanza in the investigation. We know the aircraft was moving way too fast, almost as fast as a jet as ATC has described. Allison can attest to this. Warren was warned, but never slowed down. Warren made a sharp turn at a very high speed to try to get on the localizer course. The icing was intense. We all know it. ATC has confirmed it, and so has Allison Sinclair. Intense back pressure on the yoke had to be applied to prevent the nose from dropping through the turn. All of these factors could have caused the aircraft to enter a spiral dive, also increasing the load. Here is a slide depicting some points about spiral dives. You can see that point number 3 clearly states that it might result in structural damage to the plane if the airspeed gets too high. We certainly know that the airspeed was too high in this crash, among other factors. When you think about how much icing they were picking up from what Allison has described to us, that certainly increased the risk of structural damage that could happen to the aircraft.
We don't subscribe to the position that this aircraft can come apart in an overstressed situation. Many won't. We also don't agree with the survivors or any of the reporting agencies that this was anything but pilot error. Let me explain to you in simpler terms our point of view, because we do believe in fact that this accident should have been avoided. We do agree with the manufacturer that from a mechanical standpoint, the aircraft was going too fast, it was turning too fast, and there was tremendous amount of pressure on the yoke. The combination of all three things could have indeed caused the aircraft's tail to rip off during flight. On one hand, we are discounting ice and turbulence because we cannot prove it. On the other hand, this whole entire organization is based on proof and facts. We all know that the pilot did not like flying at night, but on that particular night, he did. This concludes that he was in a hurry. Finally, we know from his daughter, who survived the crash by a miracle, that there was ice on the wings. First responders believed that there was no ice on the wings at the time of the crash. We know from his son and daughter that he had a healthy fear of ice and would avoid it at all costs. This tells us that he did indeed have some tension, some panic, or even some stress during that flight. Putting this human equation together, the pilot should not have been there and should have been at his alternate, where he could have landed safely and could have made an uneventful landing. Instead, he increased the airspeed and to keep the aircraft from stalling because of the ice, but we all know that he had enough fuel and the weather at his alternate was just fine. But he decided to go and left himself in conditions that he was not able to deal with. That, by definition, is pilot error. Like an IFR pilot busting through minimas, or a VFR pilot flying through known IFR conditions. We're not speculating why pilots make these errors, but in this case, at that particular night, at that particular time, he went for that flight. That tells us that he had a very, very compelling reason to go to Omaha during that night.
Here's the approach into Omaha Epley Field. You can see that at night in VFR conditions that this pilot is flying in, it is already a difficult and disorientating enough approach. Now imagine doing it in the conditions Warren was experiencing.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the NASA Safety Circular. My name is Jack Chager, and today I'm going to be reviewing some of the notes we've collected in the investigation of the terrible Bonanza crash. So, one thing we've remarked is that having a survivor of an in-flight breakup of an aircraft, particular or otherwise, is a rare opportunity to get some insights as to the causes and circumstances of catastrophic accidents. This being one of them, of course, a great example of what can happen when rules tend to fall by the wayside and pressures to get to an airport become too important. Since there's been a substantial amount of publicity about the unusual number of Bonanzas that have suffered catastrophic in-flight failures, the first thing that comes to mind is a case study like this. Did the pilot overstress the airplane? Well, as we have seen, the pilot did indeed overstress the airplane, flying it well above its designed speed, missing the localizer course not once, not twice, but 3 times in his attempt to clear the icing conditions that he had flown into. Now, we're very fortunate in this case to have a survivor of the incident, of course, and the fact that Allison Sinclair is also a pilot with considerable ability and familiarity with the aircraft means that she is very valuable to our investigation. So in extensive interviews and research, we have found that there's a number of circumstances in this flight that we might be able to attribute to the crash. So we do know that there are some mechanical factors, of course, involved in the accident, as the tailplane of the V-tail Bonanza did detach. And the Bonanza, as assured by Beechcraft, is of course a very strong and certifiable airplane. Unfortunately, when in extenuated circumstances, things do go wrong. Another thing that we must remark on is the fact that they were indeed flying in a very high-stress environment, which will increase the need for oxygen, something that they might not have at altitude. Hence, we recommend that pilots flying the Beechcraft Bonanza aircraft abide by the structural limitations, as with any aircraft. And when flying at night, especially in IFR conditions, we'll use oxygen as much as possible. So, in conclusion, pilots out there, we'd like to issue a very, very stern guidance into conducting safe operations with your aircraft so you can avoid tragedies. Oh, so devastating tragedies like this again. No, it was weird. The pilot, he took a nap in the back, long flight. It's understandable. And he woke up. It was just a long nap. And when you wake up from a long nap, you don't even know where you are. You don't know who you are. You don't know what happened. You don't know what century you're in. He was the same way. Didn't need, just woke up, right to flying the airplane. That's a tough thing to do. And it's not like it was just him that felt weird. Everyone knew it was wrong. Talked to the controller. He said, that's really weird. They had some heavy traffic in front of them, yeah, sure. So he kept the speed up. That's it's good airmanship. But then he didn't slow down. And that was weird. Why you do this? Now, one thing we can't forget is the route of flight, because that plays a huge factor. So starting out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, nice and warm, we're down on the ground, everything's comfortable. But then, we're going to Nebraska. You know what that elevation is? 5,000 feet. Now, that's like me going from my chair. And now we're up here. And see, the difficult thing about that is flying at night, flying into tough terrain, and going up all this way. I don't know what I'm doing. It's tough, and I'm a trained pilot too. See, that's the thing about flying at night, IFR, is the tough terrain. Especially at altitude, you can't adjust. You get lethargic, you can't do it. Now, when we were interviewing the daughter afterwards, she had some interesting things to say. Family didn't fly a lot at night, and especially not night IFR, and that's the hardest thing you can do as a pilot. So, that begs the question, why were they doing it, and did that contribute? I think so. Wow, I'm tired. Better get down. See? Why didn't I use oxygen? So, they sat at 9,000 feet for a while, and see, they're studying becoming hypoxic. Why did they do that? They had oxygen, and they just didn't use it. And I understand it's annoying, and I understand you have to have a lot of equipment on, but really, if you had it, wouldn't you want to use it and stay alive? We'd love to test about hypoxia, but man, if the insurance companies found out about that, it would just hit the fan. And there's only so many things we can do to check. You can't really test for blood oxygen level. It continues to be a sad, silent killer. So we just want to know why it happens. We want to keep people alive because we're people. We love people. We're not happy until you're unhappy. NASA research has found that 50% of the time, hypoxia kills 50% of the time, and that's something we definitely want to avoid.
Hey, what time does the interview start?
To say that we are upset over what we learned since the accident would be an understatement. We are angry and furious with the system and absolutely devastated over the way we lost our parents. Right now I'm just going over our cross-country routings from that night. Just looking at it, it's bringing back some memories I don't want to remember, but it's all part of the investigation and it's something that we must do. How could anyone, government or otherwise, deliberately hold information that is so vital to general aviation safety and information that they must know, but it's hidden from them? Since then, we have done plenty of checking, looking through old ground school material notes, and I'm going to read something from my workbook that pertains to oxygen while flying. It says, at night, oxygen may be needed at lower altitudes for sustained flight. Therefore, that was not used aboard this flight. In the FARS, it is also stated that at night, below an altitude of 5,000 feet, oxygen must be carried and must be used. Now, there's not a clear set of rules of when oxygen should be used. It is left to interpretation and it's not made clear for the reader. It should be made clear that above 5,000 feet at night, oxygen must be carried and worn, and above 12,000 feet during the day, oxygen must also be carried and worn. There should also be a new chapter devoted to hypoxia human factors so that issues like this and accidents like this will be prevented. They will never